Marcus was at home, spending time with his wife, Alicia, and their 2 children. The house was filled with the laughter of his kids playing in the living room, and the smell of dinner cooking in the kitchen. Everything seemed peaceful, normal. But Marcus felt uneasy. There was something in the back of his mind, a nagging thought he couldn't quite shake off. Alicia had been busy preparing the meal, humming to herself as she moved around the kitchen. Marcus was on his phone, scrolling through social media. Then, without any warning, there was a loud knock at the door. Marcus froze. He wasn't expecting anyone. He looked at Alicia, who was still busy with the food. Who could that be? Marcus muttered to himself, standing up from the couch. His heart began to race. When he opened the door, he was met with a figure he hadn't seen in months. Carmen, his ex-girlfriend. She was standing there, wearing a coat that barely shielded her from the cool evening air. Her eyes locked with his, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Carmen was once the love of Marcus's life, and she had always known about his transition to a heterosexual life after he had met Alicia. But their relationship ended years ago, when Carmen's identity as a transgender woman had caused a rift. They hadn't kept in touch, and Marcus had moved on, married Alicia, and started a family. "Marcus, we need to talk," Carmen said, her voice tense, almost pleading. Marcus's chest tightened. He knew this wasn't going to end well. Alicia and the kids were in the other room, and Carmen's sudden appearance was a complication he didn't want. He stepped back, trying to think quickly. "Carmen, not now. I'm with my family. You can't just show up like this." But Carmen wasn't listening. She stepped forward, brushing past him and entering the hallway. Her eyes scanned the house, and she paused when she saw Alicia and the kids through the doorway. "You have a family now?" Carmen's voice trembled, a mix of disbelief and anger. Marcus quickly shut the door behind him and motioned for Carmen to leave. "I told you. This is over. I've moved on. You need to leave, Carmen." The tension between them thickened. Carmen stood there, silent for a moment, before her expression turned cold. She took a deep breath, almost like she was gathering her thoughts. And then she snapped. "Do you think I don't know what you did to me? You left me. You abandoned me. And now you have a perfect little family, pretending I never existed. You can't just erase me, Marcus," she yelled. Marcus stepped back in shock. His heart was pounding. "Carmen, please. This isn't the time. This is my life now. Please leave." But before he could close the door, Carmen suddenly reached into her purse. The movement was swift, almost too quick for Marcus to comprehend. The metallic glint of a gun caught his eye, and his body froze. "Carmen, don't!" Marcus shouted, stepping back, but it was too late. A shot rang out, the deafening sound echoing through the house. Marcus felt the sting in his chest, the heat spreading through his body. His breath quickened, and he looked down to see blood soaking through his shirt. Alicia and the kids screamed from the living room as Marcus crumpled to the floor. The world around him seemed to slow down, and his vision blurred. "Marcus!" Alicia screamed, rushing to his side. But it was too late. Carmen was gone, leaving Marcus on the floor, bleeding, with nothing but a confused, broken heart. The house was in chaos. Alicia was kneeling beside Marcus, her hands trembling as she pressed against the wound on his chest, trying to stop the bleeding. The kids were crying, their tiny voices filled with panic and confusion. Everything felt like it was happening in a blur, the world moving around her too quickly for Alicia to grasp. Her husband, the man she had built a life with, was dying in her arms. "Marcus, stay with me," Alicia screamed, but her voice was shaky, full of fear. She was trying to hold it together for the kids, but inside, she was falling apart. She could see the life draining from Marcus's face, his eyes slowly losing their sharpness. In the distance, she could hear the faint wail of sirens. Someone had called 911, but it felt like they would never get there in time. She could already feel his pulse weakening, the blood seeping through her hands, too much to stop. "Mommy, Daddy." The voice of their youngest, Ella, broke through the chaos. She was standing in the doorway, clutching her stuffed bunny tightly in her arms. Her wide eyes were filled with confusion. She didn't understand what was happening. Alicia felt a pang of guilt as she turned to look at her daughter, unable to comfort her in this moment of crisis. "We need help, baby," Alicia managed to whisper, even though she wasn't sure help was going to come in time. Marcus's breathing was shallow, the blood from his chest making a sickening sound as it dripped onto the floor. His hand reached up weakly to touch Alicia's face, his fingers trembling. He looked at her with a distant, apologetic expression. "I'm so sorry," Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible. Alicia's heart broke. She didn't know what he was apologizing for. Whether it was for not telling her about Carmen, for the secret life he might have lived, or for the fact that he was leaving her and their children behind. But all she could do was hold him, even though she knew it might be too late. Then, as if the universe was mocking her, a thought flashed in Alicia's mind. Carmen. She was the one who had caused this. She had come to their home unannounced, disrupted their lives. And now her husband was dying because of it. Alicia felt her anger rise, but it was mixed with a deep sadness. She knew Carmen had been hurt, that their past relationship had been complicated. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could justify what had happened. The sirens grew louder, and soon, the door burst open. Paramedics rushed in, but they were too late. Marcus had already stopped breathing. One of the paramedics checked his pulse, shook his head, and covered his body with a blanket. Alicia felt her world crumble. She didn't cry out. She just sat there, staring at her lifeless husband, her mind reeling. The kids were still crying, but Alicia couldn't find the strength to comfort them. She was numb. Alicia was still in a daze when the police arrived. They took her statement, though she could barely remember anything she said. They asked about Carmen, but Alicia didn't know where she had gone, or if she had left in a hurry. It all felt like a dream, an awful nightmare that Alicia couldn't wake up from. Later, in the sterile, quiet police station, Alicia sat in an interrogation room, alone, trying to process everything that had happened. She was still in shock, her mind racing through the events of the afternoon. The detective, a seasoned officer named Detective Johnson, walked in with a notebook in hand. He sat down across from Alicia, looking at her with sympathetic eyes. "Alicia," he began gently, "I know this is hard, but we need to ask you a few more questions. We have to find out what happened." Alicia nodded numbly, her gaze distant. "I don't know what happened. One minute, everything was fine. Then she showed up. She just came here. I told her to leave, but she wouldn't. She shot him." Detective Johnson nodded, taking notes. "Can you tell me what Carmen said before she shot Marcus?" Alicia hesitated, the words still sharp in her mind. She was angry. She said I had replaced her, that Marcus had left her for me, that he abandoned her. But she couldn't just come into our home and do this. The detective's expression softened. "We'll find her, Alicia. We'll make sure she faces the consequences of what she did." Alicia didn't know if she could believe him. What happened to Marcus felt like something out of a nightmare. She wasn't sure she was ready to face the reality of it all. But she knew one thing. Marcus was gone, and their family would never be the same. The following days passed in a blur of grief, anger, and confusion. Alicia found herself in a fog, moving through the motions of daily life, while everything inside her felt shattered. Marcus's funeral was held on a dreary Thursday, under gray skies that seemed to match the somber mood of the entire town. Friends and family came to pay their respects, but Alicia felt like she was living in someone else's body, unable to connect with anyone or anything. She didn't know how to be without Marcus. She didn't know how to explain to their children that their father wasn't coming home. The pain was overwhelming, and yet, she had no time to mourn. Not with the constant questions from the police, the media, and the constant worry about Carmen. Detective Johnson had told her they were doing everything they could to track down Carmen. They had combed through her known locations and talked to her friends. But Carmen had vanished. There were rumors circulating that she had fled the city, maybe even out of state, but the police had no solid leads. Alicia couldn't help but wonder what Carmen was thinking, where she was hiding, and what her plan was. Did she regret it? Did she even care? Days turned into weeks, and Alicia found herself staring out the window, watching as life continued without her. The world moved on, but for Alicia, time had stopped. Then, one night, almost a month after Marcus's death, Alicia received a call. It was Detective Johnson again. This time, his voice sounded more serious. "Alicia, we've found her." The words hit Alicia like a punch to the stomach. Her heart raced, her breath quickened. She didn't know what she felt: relief, fear, anger. But most of all, she felt the weight of the truth settling over her. Carmen was still out there, and she was going to have to face her. "We have Carmen in custody. She's been arrested," Detective Johnson continued. "She's been charged with second-degree murder. We're still piecing together the details, but she's been cooperating." and we've got enough evidence to move forward with the case. Alicia's head was spinning. Second-degree murder. She had shot Marcus in cold blood, but the charge still seemed too light. Alicia had been expecting more, at least first degree, with premeditation. The thought of Carmen getting away with anything less than a life sentence made Alicia's blood boil. But the detective's next words made her freeze. "There's something you need to know. Carmen has given us a full confession," he said. "But what she said might surprise you." Alicia's voice trembled. "What do you mean?" "We found out that Marcus wasn't the only person she had a relationship with," Detective Johnson said. "She claimed that he wasn't the one who left her, that there was someone else. Someone she says she'd been seeing for months. She says she didn't kill Marcus just because he had moved on. She says she was protecting you." Alicia sat down hard, her legs giving way beneath her. "Protecting me?" she repeated, disbelief flooding her voice. "What do you mean?" The detective explained slowly, as though piecing together a puzzle. "Carmen had been keeping tabs on Marcus. She knew he had a family. She knew about you and the kids. What she's saying is that she thought Marcus was still secretly involved with her. She thought he was leading you both on, living a double life. But the truth is, Alicia, she never had closure with Marcus. And she couldn't handle the thought of him being with someone else." Alicia's stomach twisted. This wasn't the woman who had been a part of Marcus's life. This was something darker. Alicia had heard stories of obsessive love, of people clinging to the past. But this was something beyond what she had imagined. Carmen's twisted sense of possession, her need to control Marcus's life even from the shadows, had led her to this moment. She's telling us that she thought she had to stop Marcus from abandoning her, that he was lying to both of you. And when she showed up at the house, she believed he was planning to leave you and go back to her. In her mind, she was doing what she thought was right. She saw herself as the one who needed to protect you from the betrayal Marcus had been hiding from you. Alicia's hands trembled as she clutched the phone. Protect her? She hadn't asked for this. She hadn't asked for Carmen to barge into their lives, to pull apart everything she had worked so hard to build. Alicia's anger surged. "That's a lie," she said, her voice sharp. "Marcus never betrayed me. He wasn't hiding anything. He was trying to build a life with me and our kids. I believe you, Alicia. But Carmen believes her own version of the truth. That's the part we're still trying to untangle. It's going to be a tough case, but we'll make sure she faces the consequences." Alicia wanted to scream, but instead, she sat in silence. The truth felt hollow. What difference did it make? Her husband was gone. Nothing could bring him back. Carmen's twisted logic, her betrayal of both Marcus and Alicia, was something that no one could ever fully understand. But what haunted Alicia most was the fact that Carmen had believed she was saving her. That, somehow, taking Marcus away from her was an act of kindness. In the days that followed, Alicia found herself grappling with the aftermath. She began to question everything she knew about Marcus, about their life together. Had there been signs she had missed? Had Carmen been right all along? But the most painful truth of all was this: it didn't matter anymore. Marcus was gone, and no amount of answers could ever bring him back. The trial that followed was long and agonizing, with Carmen sitting at the front of the courtroom, cold and detached as she faced the consequences of her actions. Alicia sat in the back, staring at the woman who had taken everything from her. But through it all, Alicia knew one thing: Carmen's punishment, whatever it was, wouldn't bring her peace. It wouldn't bring Marcus back. And in the end, that was the hardest truth to face.